Hello, welcome back to JC Productions. Today we are going to be doing something very different. Today we are going to be looking at scary stories. Now, I know a lot of this at the minute on the channel is podcast, but I just thought it'd be a fun little idea to do of reading scary stories that we have found on Reddit in the Reddit Scary Stories. Okay, so let's go to story number 1. Am I just being paranoid? One night, I was lying on my bed watching TikTok videos on my phone when I heard tapping on my window. I brushed it off and said it's probably raining, but I was still super scared, so I went to look at the weather. My heart sank when I saw it wasn't raining and it wasn't supposed to rain all night. The tapping started again, but I told myself it probably was a branch. But when I heard the sound of my window slowly sliding open, I was really scared at this point, and I couldn't move. Eventually, I got up and went over to my window to see it was open. I closed it, and I was really scared and tired, and I wanted to go to bed, but I wasn't sure if I could. I laid on my bed and tried to go to sleep. At some point, I fell asleep. When I woke up, I went over to my window to find very clear fingerprints on my window. What should I do? One night, I was lying on my bed. Let's just repeat that. Okay, so that is a very creepy experience. I can't imagine, because of course I don't sleep on the first floor. That sounded very braggy, but I can't imagine having tapping on your window and then going, "Oh, I'll just it's probably just rain," because I know I would freak out a ton if that was me. I mean, not just because it was rain, because I'm not scared of it, but just having this happen on the window and then going like, "Oh no, it's probably something else." Because you do try to tell yourself that something's not there. And then if you find your window open, I think that's just, I don't know what I'd do. I think I'd have to call someone. I wouldn't be sleeping that night, that's for sure. But yeah, they said they found fingerprints there, so that is obviously something there. And one of the comments says, report it to the police. They might come and take the fingerprints. Also, lock your window before you go to bed and the doors. And then, yeah, but that is a good feedback for it. I mean, yeah, you should probably call the police if you think someone's gone and opened your window whilst you're there, because that isn't a good thing to happen. And then the other comment, could it be that it was a windy night and something just flew into your window, like twigs, to create the tapping and it slid open due to the wind? The fingerprints could be yours from when you got up to close it. If something like this is happening for the first time and it does not occur again, I think this would be a very reasonable explanation for the occurrence. Again, it is a case of that it could be someone trying to break in, but I think that comment would be very reassuring to try and put your mind at ease so you're not as scared. But I'd still probably be very scared of that occurring, to be honest. Okay, so let's move on to story number 2, which is coming home from school home alone. 15-year-old Sarah Deacon didn't know it at the moment that her parents were not her parents. Instead, they were other beings who took the form of her parents. The other day, who looked and acted and sounded like her parents. It was all very convincing, so Sarah didn't think anything was wrong. Honey, we're going to the market tomorrow and we won't come home until very late at night. Food will be prepared when you get home from school. Love you, Sarah's mum said as she told her what to expect the next day. The next day, everything was normal. She went to school and had a pretty uneventful day there until she came home from school and found that her parents were there. Mum, Dad, I thought you were going to the market, Sarah said, her voice sounding both shocked and surprised. Both her parents looked at her confused, and her mum said, we never said we were going to the market. Oh my god, that would be the worst thing. Imagine people impersonating the people you knew and know the best, and you don't realise, and so actually no. In that situation, I think I'd just be being gaslighted, because I'd be there going like, no, what do you mean? You did say you were going to the market. Why are you lying? And I think I'd just be convinced that I had imagined it wrong, to be honest. Because she doesn't know that it was someone breaking into her house. So because it says oh, she didn't know that her parents were replaced. And so then she'd be like, the parents go like, oh yeah, we're going to the market. She's like, all right. And then when they say they're not, like, well, we never said we're going to the market. I think either they're going, either they're playing a joke on me, or I am just very stupid and I remember things, which is most likely the second one in my experience. But so yeah, I wouldn't be too terrified if that happened because again, you wouldn't have known that it wasn't your parents in the first place. Okay, so let's move on to story number 3. Don't mess with Ouija boards. It all started on a typical Saturday night, with me and a few of my friends hanging out at my place while my parents were away for the weekend. What ended up happening that night is something traumatic I will never ever forget. One of my friends, let's call her Emily, was the one to come up with the crazy ideas that always made everything fun. She suggested we explore my basement and see if we can find anything interesting. As we were looking for anything to make the night better, I found an old Ouija board hidden there from when my parents were young. I remember my parents warning me about it when I was younger, but Emily mentioned her recently deceased boyfriend. She wanted to see if we could contact him. In the end, we all decided to entertain the idea of contacting Emily's late boyfriend just to see if Ouija boards actually worked. We gathered around the Ouija board, fingers trembling as we touched the planchette. We were hoping to chat with Emily's late boyfriend. What we got was way scarier. The planchette started moving on its own, spelling out messages that made our blood run cold. We tried to bail, but it was like something was holding us there, refusing to let us go. That's when things got really horrifying. We heard screams, and one of my friend's eyes went white. It felt like what was happening was something evil, something that wanted to hurt us. My friends screamed in terror as they were paralyzed by whatever we had unleashed, but I stood untouched, just standing there like a silent witness to the horrifying scene. It was just too easy, I thought to myself. My friends were lying down on the floor, eyes still wide open, and I could hear the fear by the way they were breathing. Good thing they weren't dead, or else the ritual wouldn't work. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and began chanting as I continued on with the ritual. I'd always been drawn to the mystical and the unknown. I believed in something more, something beyond what we can see. And that night I realized that I wasn't alone. I'd always made a pact with the devil, trading a piece of myself for understanding and enlightenment. Things that happened that night wasn't scary for me. It was a gift. It showed me who I really am and what I was capable of. Oh my god, that is unbelievable. That's just really freaky. And also, you could probably tell that I don't know anything about Ouija boards because I probably said that name wrong with that like planchette thing they were holding. So that's probably definitely not how you say it. But yeah, that is a very unexpected twist because you go like, oh, it's going to be ghosts and everything, and then you find out no, it was the person writing it who's the evil one in this story. So yeah, you don't see that coming, but it's a good twist. So whoever wrote that, that is a good story. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This one's called The Sleep Doctor, and it says in brackets, real story. So yeah, be prepared to get freaked out. I was about 9 at the time. In my room, there were 2 beds, one facing the closet with a mirror and one facing the doorway. I was sleeping in the one across from the doorway. My parents would leave a dim light on in the living room just in case we were scared and needed to get water or something. That night, a mysterious, feminine-looking black figure stood at the door. I wasn't asleep. I wasn't in sleep paralysis, but I froze. I tried to hide under my blanket, but my eyes were fixated on the figure. It was standing in the light, but I couldn't make out a single feature except its ruggish hair. After what felt like an hour of it staring at me, I blinked and it vanished. I bolted out of my bed and into my sister's room, and my parents were sitting in there. I told them what happened, and they responded, "Oh, the doctor wanted to check how you were sleeping." By now, the fear had drained me. I just went back to sleep, in fear, obviously. I'm not sure if I asked the morning after or if I asked a few days after, but whatever. But whenever I brought it up, my parents would be confused as to what I'm talking about. I know I wasn't dreaming because I can physically tell the difference between my dreams and reality, even from a young age. So even if I was dreaming, how did my parents know that I saw someone and it was a doctor? Okay, that would freak. I don't think I'd ever sleep again because if that's why I always sleep with the door closed because then no one can peek around the corner, and also because I'm a light sleeper. So if someone opens the door, I wake up instantly. So it's just like no one has a chance of peeking at me through that, and that is why you should never sleep with your door open because that's just asking for things to come and peek at you. So yeah, pro tip: if you don't want things peeking at you in the night, close your doors. And that's promise. Okay, so for the next story, we've gone to real scary stories, and this one is True Pokemon Go Scary Story. So this story takes place in late 2016, the year Pokemon Go came out, and the time the game had huge hype around it. So me being a teenager who wanted to play what everyone else was playing, I got the game myself and I enjoyed it. One of my friends also played the game, and we had the idea of having a sleepover at my house and have our own Pokemon adventure together. We both thought it was going to be a lot of fun. So we got it organised, and my friend, who I will call Dan, stayed over at my house for the day. We messed around, ate snacks, played video games on my PS4, and etc. It was at 10 p.m. when Dan suggested we go out and play Pokemon Go. I brought up that it was too late, but he persisted. So I asked my mum if it was fine, and she said it was. Sure, I had my concerns and all, but I honestly thought nothing bad would happen. This is due to the fact that I live in a small and quiet town. No one would be out this late. So it wasn't like we were going to get mugged in an alley. So we grabbed our phones and headed off down to the main street of my town. We walked past the cemetery, then past the football oval. But as we passed the football oval, we saw a black Ford Territory parked by it. No lights were on, so we didn't think anyone was inside it, so we passed it. We got onto the football. We've got onto the footpath past the oval when we noticed the Ford pulled up next to us on the footpath. We found it strange but kept walking anyway. We were passing the post office when we saw the same Ford pull into the car park in front of the post office. This gave us the suspicion this random car was following us, so we kept walking but at a faster pace. We walked past past the post office and were now walking past our town park. As we were walking by the park, Dan told me to hide behind the bushes which surrounded the park entrance. As we crouched down behind the bushes, we saw the Ford pull on at the park entrance, confirming 100% that this Ford was following us. After what felt like an eternity for me, the Ford drove off and we got out of the park and started running back to my house. As we started running back to my house, I looked behind me to make sure the Ford was gone, and what I saw horrified me. The car turned left at the end of the street. I originally thought that maybe he was just leaving the town, but then I realised the park has two main entrances. The way he turned, he was driving to the second entrance, meaning he believed we ran to the other side of the park and was trying to cut us off that way. There was no argument left. This guy wasn't following us for safety purposes or etc. He was chasing us. I'm not an athletic person, unlike my friend Dan, but in this instant I was keeping up with him from the sheer fear of what will happen if this driver caught us or what his intentions were with us. We ran past the post office, past the football oval, and we were halfway past the cemetery when we saw the headlights of the Ford behind us, and I was terrified. There was nowhere to hide. It was a footpath with a giant fence separating the footpath and the cemetery. There was nothing to hide behind. Luckily enough, Dan came up with an idea. He pointed out that we were both wearing dark hoodies. He said to put the hood over our heads, crouch down, and pretend to be rocks. At the time, I thought it was an absolute stupid idea, but that was all we had. So we just did that, pretending to be rocks, and the Ford drove past us. No slowing down at all, which meant this stupid plan actually worked. After he drove past us, we continued booking it. We were at the end of the cemetery when we saw him driving our way again. This time, there was a bin to hide behind, which we did. He drove past us again, and we continued booking it. We got to my house and locked the door behind us to be sure some kind of safety. We explained to my mum what happened, and after that day, she made some new rules. No more playing Pokemon Go at night, and my little sister was not allowed to go out by herself to play it. She wasn't happy about that, but at least we are all still here to tell this story. Oh my gosh, in that situation, what are you going to do? Because if you're being chased by a car, it's like normally you can go, oh, it's just a car. People like that because if you're by yourself at night, you're more likely to be okay with cars. You're like, oh, people driving past, that's a good thing. Because then if anything does happen, then there's witnesses about. But then if it's that one car who's following you around, what are you meant to do then? Because you can't outrun a car. So, oh my god, that would just be a terrible situation to be in. So, yeah, so I think your mum made a good rule to like stop the Pokemon Go after that because that was too close in that situation. I mean, luckily your friend came up with that idea quickly of what to do. So at least you both made it out all right. But yeah, I agree with the rules after that of no going out to play Pokemon Go at night. Okay, so let's move on to another one called the Staircase Squatter. I come from a small town, a small Midwestern town where you would think nothing bad really happens. The past year seems to prove otherwise. We had a teen girl get kidnapped and was missing for 88 days. A local kid stabbed a father and a son in the park on Halloween. Two car collision wiping out a Ma and Pa family restaurant off our main road, and a few other oddball things for a town of 3,500 people. Trying to ignore the chaos around my boyfriend and I's life, we stay at home a lot, away from people. And home is where you're supposed to feel safest, right? In our staircase, not so much. A few weeks ago, after the stabbing happened, we started locking the deadbolt on our door. Being that we live in the basement of our apartment building, we never seen the point before because, well, it's a basement. No one really wants to go in a basement for anything, but because things have been getting weirder and weirder around town, might as well be safe than sorry. A couple of nights go by and we are in the bedroom watching a movie. Our cat, who's laying on the end of the bed near the door, perks her ears up, looking out into the living room. We pause to hear what sounds like footsteps come from the entry stairs. We stop the show and wait for a knock, expecting it to be a friend popping by, but nothing. Our cat, who's a rescue, continues to stare out of the room, but she's so nervous about everything we ignore her and brush it off, thinking it's the foundation settling, since it's an old building and it makes a lot of sound anyways. We hit play. Moments later, the doorknob rattles, like someone is trying to get in. My boyfriend grabs his pocket knife from the bedside, hops up quietly, goes to the door. I silently follow behind him. There's about an inch gap between the floor and the door, so we could see if anyone was on the other side. But there was no shadow, and my boyfriend couldn't see anything through the peephole. Dumbfounded, we sit quietly in the dark living room for a while listening. We didn't hear anything more that night. A week has gone by since the weird incident happened, and every night since we've heard footsteps down the stairs and the door rattling. I try to rationalize and say maybe it's the upstairs neighbor we hear, or maybe it's finally cold enough where the building is shifting more than normal. My boyfriend has lived in the apartment for 2 years before I moved in, and he said he knows all the sounds and is used to the daily noises. But the stairs and the door rattling is new. I know we both sound paranoid, but with all what's happening in our town, can you really blame us? 2 weeks and the sound keeps happening, and our cat has become more and more wary of the door. Be wary of the door. She no longer runs to us to say hello when we get home. She slowly creeps around the corner and looks to make sure it's us before running near the door. Our work schedules are different from one another, and I sometimes get home before my boyfriend does. And it being fall, it gets dark early, so we use a spotlight to light up the outside door. One day I got home shortly after dark and the spotlight was on. The boyfriend sometimes comes home on lunch, so I thought nothing of it. I enter the stairway, get to our door and unlock it. The cat is scared and is hiding back by the kitchen, and running to me as soon as she realizes that it was me. I look in the kitchen and didn't notice anything was used, so I texted my boyfriend asking if he stopped by at the house for lunch. He replied, "No, why?" I explained how the spotlight was on, and the cat acted like someone was there. He asked if the door was locked, and I told him yes. I swear, as soon as I told him that I heard someone run up the stairs and out of the building. And me, being the scaredy cat that I am, quickly get to our door and deadbolt it. I sat in the living room with our cat and my boyfriend got home a few hours later. I told him what happened, so he thought it'd be a good idea to start locking the entry door as well. A day or two after the spotlight was on again, when neither of us stopped by the apartment, whatever, no big deal, we felt safer, because there was no more sounds. One night we came home really late at like 1 a.m. late, and the spotlight was on. We got closer to the apartment entry and realised that there was a person creeping around in between our building and the next door apartment building. They stood there watching us, not moving. Being uneasy about that, I moved as fast as I could to unlock the entry door. My boyfriend, right behind me, locks it after we get in. We hear our apartment door. As we go inside, my boyfriend cuts the lights from the entrance hallway and waits outside the apartment door to see if the person would try to get in. We waited 15 minutes before turning the hall light back on. I went out into the hall and asked him if he thought that it was the reason behind all the oddities. He said it could be, but I don't know. We just stood there and pondered things. I looked down the short hall to the left of the apartment door and noticed the closet under the entrance stairs. I got nervous and uncomfortable looking at it, but something told me to go and open it and look. So I did, and I couldn't believe what I saw. There was cans of old food, bottles of various drinks in a blanket, and a couple of other random things. My boyfriend told our landlord. The landlord explained to the police what happened, but the police won't do anything. So the landlord is securing the building a little bit better, but it's still only been a few weeks since all of that was discovered, and I still get chills and I'm scared about the what ifs. Oh my god, that is one of my biggest fears of someone living inside your house. So I, in that situation, I mean, of course, it's your house, so you can't exactly just move out straight away because that's not how life works, unfortunately. Maybe if you knew people, like you said, like, oh, friends could drop by, so if you like have friends, you should probably try and stay with them until you can actually move house, because that is what I would suggest, moving up, because you don't want people living in your house. That is, I don't think there's anything worse than that, really. I mean, it's the same thing as like, when people say like, oh, if you were a millionaire, would you buy a mansion? I'm just there like, no, because you have a mansion. Think of all those rooms. Someone could be in that mansion in one of the rooms hiding, and you just would never know. And that is why it's just really freaky. I mean, it's like you should feel safe in your house, but like knowing that there's like things of that happening where people are inside your house and you just don't know, it is the worst thought imaginable. And that is one of the things that scare me the most. So if anyone is in in my walls, just please can you leave? Thank you, because it is the worst thing, and you're not welcome. So be gone. That's hopefully done it. I should be safe now. Okay, so the last story is, how did my mum get there? I woke up the morning and everything was completely normal. I went to go and brush my teeth, and just before I did, I heard my mum come upstairs and she said good morning to me. Then she proceeded to go straight down the hall into her bedroom. I brushed my teeth for 20 seconds with the door open and nobody passed by. When I left the bathroom, I looked down the stairs and there was two chairs side by side and two laundry bins behind, almost like someone was trying to sleep to keep someone away. Keep in mind, I have a dog, but it's completely trained, so we let her roam the house. This is where my blood turned cold. As I was looking at this blockade, I heard my mother come up from the basement and start walking around. I froze. How on earth did my mother get from inside her bedroom, down the only flight of steps past the blockade, and into the basement, all while my bathroom door was still open? Unless there is someone or something pretending to be my mother, I'm currently hiding in my bedroom as I hear my mother's muffled voice from downstairs, and I'm too afraid to go and find out who it is. That is a really freaky one. Okay, so with that I don't, because I mean that's in real scary stories, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is real because people can lie on the internet. What? Wow, really? I'm sorry to break it to you, but yeah, if it is real, then that is not great, because I mentioned this in my Toy Story podcast. This week, where recently I've been seeing an emergence of when scrolling through things, I keep seeing people reference a type of spirit called a mimic, where they say it copies people. Where they say like, "Oh, I hear myself calling my name from the other room," and then there's like that video, and then there's just like a figure sat on the sofa, just like sat there all like upright and everything, where it's like looks really freaky. And there's also people who say like, "Oh, if you hear someone calling you, and you don't think it's them, then don't answer it." Apparently, they want you to answer so that they can copy you. And again, that's freaky. And there was someone who there was a TikTok. Someone had their cat with them, and they heard their name being called, and so they answered the cat, and then they realised, wait, it called my name, and then it's there saying like, no, they wasn't their cat. They heard someone call their name, and then they was just like they answered because they were there saying like, oh yeah, who like answering back, and then they went, oh, I live alone. There's no one here. Who the heck is calling me? And so they pretended to talk to their cat because again, it's like where you're not meant to answer the spirit. So she's trying to act like she is talking to the cat, not the spirit, so that nothing bad happens. And yeah, that is not something that I like. I've been seeing it more and more recently. People keep going like, "Oh, this mimic thing," and is really it freaks me out quite a bit, and I don't like it. So seeing a story like that with the person saying like, "Oh, their mum walked past them," and then they saw their mum come out the basement. It's like so there's it could be evil one, and it was already freaky and a terrible story. Not terrible as in the fact that it's really like awfully written, but awful as in the fact that it is scary, and which makes it good for that Reddit page. But yeah, just really freaky, and I hope that nothing like that ever happens in my life, because I do not know what I do. Probably again, never sleep again, and I'd probably have to live. I'd have to hire people. I'd have to get a mansion, even though I said that is the thing I wouldn't do. And I'd just have loads of people live with me, just say like, there's safety in numbers, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's what I'd do. But that is all of the scary stories we're going through today. There have been quite a bit. I don't know how many there will be in the end because I did read one and then I think I'm going to cut it because it didn't go well because I couldn't understand what was being said. Actually, I could put that one after this outro. So I'll use that as a blooper because, again, I did not understand what the heck was going on. But thank you for staying with me for this journey. There wasn't too many scares in that. There's like quite situations which you wouldn't want to be in, but then again, it's like reading it secondhand is like not as scary. I mean, there's other things which you can look through which are scary, which I could do at some point in the future. But as today, I am still quite all right. I mean, if I was filming this at night, that could be a different story. But it's daylight out there, so I know I'm fine. But thank you for watching and have a good week. And I hope everything works out well for you. I hope nothing scary happens to you at all this week and in the rest of your future. I hope you just have a safe and perfect life. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Enjoy the blooper. Bye. Here is the next story, which is titled 6 a.m., which not a good title for me from the start because that is a time that I am normally awake by. I normally either wake up and then go back to sleep around that time, or that is before like, I'm awake near that time to get ready for college. Okay. So right from the start, I'm freaked out. Okay, let's go. I went to sleep around 1:13 a.m. and I decided to sleep in the living room because my dog had her puppies not long after. I went to sleep around 1:13 a.m. and I decided to sleep in the living room because my dog had her puppies not long ago, and if there was some trouble during the night, I would help her. So I slept. Everything was fine until I heard a spear come off the Christmas tree. A bauble. Well, I woke up immediately, but I was too scared to look. After a couple of seconds, I decided to look. The sphere was rolling. Is it? I'm very confused by this sphere talk. Okay. I'm just going to start again. I went to sleep around 1:13 a.m. and I decided to sleep in the living room because my dog had her puppies not long ago, and if there was some trouble during the night, I would help her. So I slept, everything was fine until I heard a bauble come off the Christmas tree. I woke up immediately, but I was scared to look after a couple of seconds. I decided to look. The bauble was rolling as if someone took it out of the tree, purposely dropped it, and pushed it so hard so it had speed. I was like, oh, okay, oh no. But then I heard, like, as if someone was in the kitchen, and at the same time, someone was in my brother's room. There's a wall, and on the left side, there's the tree, and on the right side, my brother's room. I was like, WTF is going on? I was scared. I decided to try and go back to sleep, but I couldn't. It was like if I was hearing someone walk around the kitchen back and forth, and something walking in my brother's living room out of some kind of phone that was on. But once I got up, I heard nothing. I turned on my phone's flashlight. I looked in the kitchen. There was nothing at first. I thought it was my dad, but he didn't go to work that day. I tried going back to sleep. The same thing happened. I heard someone walking back and forth in the kitchen and someone in my brother's room. But this time I heard a voice. I didn't recognize the voice. After that, I was like, my head is just playing against me. So I went to sleep. In the morning, when I woke up around 11 p.m. and then 11 a.m., I looked in the kitchen and all the cabinets are fully open. I am very confused with what was going on there. I have no idea. I'm just going to leave that. I do not know.